Members of press, welcome once again to our brief. Ethnic Minority and Marginalized Communities National Professional Caucus. This is our first meeting that we are launching ourselves in this hotel. These are members. The National Caucus for Professionals are a group of members drawn from 79 marginalized minority communities in Kenya, spread in 29 counties, representing the respective communities from all the 29 counties. Rationale. The rationale of our coming together as professionals of minorities and marginalized communities of Kenya is to push for recognition and identification as minorities and marginalized groups as per 2010 Constitution, Article 56, Article 100, 260, and Article 10, among many other articles of the Constitution. Key objectives: realizing that for the last 50 years, since Kenya got independent, we have been left out of governance and involvement in leadership of our sovereign nation. Today we demonstrate our unity to speak in one voice for the first time in history, seeking for inclusion and involvement in leadership of our land. Inclusion and involvement in the leadership of our land. Noting that as professionals, we have to mobilize ourselves to fill the gap on behalf of our communities. We do therefore congregate here today to launch ourselves, the National Professional Caucus from these minorities and marginalized communities. Aware of the constitutional framework that provides and covers rights and freedom in the Constitution of Kenya 2010, in particular, Preamble Paragraph 3, 5, 6, and 7, Article 110, 19, 20, 21, 27, 28, 44, 56, 73, 10, 100, 197, 204, 232, and 260 of our Constitution. Also aware of completing numerous statutory laws that have been enacted and others yet to be enacted are related to articles stated above in the Constitution of Kenya, including County Government Act, Equalization Act, Political Act, IBC Act, among others. Out of our collective will, we jointly gather here to envision what an inclusive world should be, and by making sense of our collective experience and interaction to influence the shaping of decisions and actions, both at the national and county government level, so as to attain the desired results that are favorable to ethnic minorities and to all citizens of Kenya. We argue that responsible leadership, which celebrates diversity and inclusivity, is a public good that all citizens, including minorities and marginalized communities, deserve. Cognizant of all the challenges we are facing ethnic minorities as such, inability to fully access good health, infrastructure, employment opportunities, water, among others. Long-awaited transitional justice because of historical marginalization. Lack of participation in making decisions that are direct bearing in our lives. Hardly able to raise representatives in elected positions, including MCS, members of National Assembly and Senate, because of our low population as compared to more populous communities within our territory. I put that one to be numerical disability. Discriminated from appointive representation, which is usually aligned to political class. Hardly are we appointed or by extension effectively represented in public services. Equalization Fund, which has a window of 8 years, and hardly reach us for obvious reason. They are allocated based on criteria that relevant legal frameworks are yet to be enacted. For example, the historical injustice alluded to Article 27, 6, to readiness any disadvantage suffering by individual or groups because of past discrimination is yet to be enacted, and to which a challenge remained because there are champions of such laws, since we, the ethnic minorities, are already represented in those institutions that make laws. Therefore, we, the minorities and marginalized communities in Kenya, suggest the following remedies. A, that the state to consider an institution that cater for concern of minorities and marginalized communities, such as to identify, register, recognize, promote, preserve, and ensure employment of rights and freedoms. Institution, what we are saying here is that we have to be given, or an institution to be established, an authority or entity, either a commission, parastatal, or even a ministry for these ethnic and marginalized communities.
Yes, that is it.
That is such an institution will ensure members of minority and marginalized communities are effectively and meaningfully represented as at national and county government in both elective and appointive representation county. C, that obligated institutions such as IBC and Political Parties Act ensure that minorities and marginal communities are factored in the party list by law. That individuals and institutions who fail to factor in minorities and marginal groups be explicitly sanctioned. E, that courts shall adopt the type of jurisprudence that acknowledge that minorities and marginal community rights are not only constitutional rights but also human rights. F, that the establishment of an executive authority such as Commission for Ethnic Minorities and Marginalized Groups or a ministry or parastatal for the said ethnic communities. That,
Yes,
that Parliament enact laws specify under Article 27, 6, and other that could enable the enjoyment of the minorities and communities of their rights and freedoms. H, that whereas the state can put in place measures to address ethnic minorities and issues, such measures be allocated sufficient fund to cater for the unique needs of ethnic minorities and marginalized communities. I, that the bill such as 57 of 2019, and that is very serious, still pending in Parliament, fast-tracked, should be fast-tracked. The request is they get priority enacted into law. I will mention that we have bill of representation, bill of Article 100 bill, that is number 52 of 2019. That's a bill that it has been enacted in 2019. Right now it's in Senate. It has taken almost 3 months or 4 months. And we fear that maybe, because this is the bill that's touching on the representation of minority minority communities and other special interest groups, maybe if it cannot be enacted in next year, 2022, the same problems that we have been facing as minorities in terms of nominations, maybe we will not achieve anything out of that. So we are telling Senate, and specifically the Speaker of Senate, to ensure that this bill is enacted immediately so that minorities and marginalized communities and other special interest groups enjoy the right of representation under the Constitution.
Yes.
That as sensitivity to minority and marginalized communities, context and situation be taken into consideration. A case in point, that is what is happening right now, the current marginalization. A case in point is the recent CS of Education, Science and Technology directed at all schools with less than 40 candidates to be amalgamated, relocated, and fused together with other schools without considering distance. Consequently, this will result in high dropout rates, transition rates, and completion rates at all levels of education.
That's very true.
The children of minority and marginal communities, particularly those living in ASAL areas, because many minorities are in northeastern areas where students or peoples populations are very low, and yet schools are up to some tens of kilometers apart, meaning candidates will have to spend more time and effort in traveling. Additionally, similarly, recently invite curriculum developers in only 18 listed tribes. Notably, this left many minority languages, mostly from minorities and marginalized communities, who deserve priority since they face a real threat of extinction and cultural diversity.